Canadians are set to learn a lot more about all 5 party leaders in 2 televised debates. The first one in French Wednesday night, and then another debate in English on Thursday. CBC Morning Live will be in Montreal the morning after the French debate with coverage and analysis and what to look ahead for during the English showdown to come. But ahead of those 2 debates, the leaders of the 2 front-running parties, Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney, took their message to voters in battleground Quebec. Both appeared last night on a major French-language talk show, Tout, monde, parle. The program, which airs on Radio-Canada, gets nearly 1 million viewers each and every week. Liberal leader Mark Carney and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre both faced tough questions on the show, and the stakes were high because a politician's performance there can really make or break them with Quebec voters. So let's begin our coverage with Janice McGregor in Ottawa. She was watching. What stood out to you, Janice, last night?
Yeah, good morning, Heather. Look, the Conservative leader is clearly the more comfortable of the 2 when he's communicating in French. But the questions were very uncomfortable for Pierre Poilievre. Right off the top of the show, he was asked why his campaign isn't doing better. And they didn't get really any easier. The interview concluded with questions about how his campaign has been treating the media. He was also asked whether he's a mini Trump, a medium Trump, or a lot like Trump, and that pokes directly at what's become a really sensitive liability for some voters. It fell to Poilievre to try to contrast himself with the U.S. president, even as his campaign in some ways continues to mirror the style of populist politics in the U.S. Poilievre turned up, as you saw there, with his collar open. He was trying to relax and joke with the hosts in keeping with the informal style of the show. But he faced questions about who he really is. Is he the smiling guy talking to them now, or is he the mean, aggressive opposition leader that Quebecers often see on the attack? And at that point, Poilievre disclosed that he's actually been seeking the advice of former Premier and Bloc Québécois leader Lucien Bouchard, who apparently told Poilievre that, by nature, he is a fighter, and now he needs to fight for people who need hope. Carney and his team continue to set the bar quite low for anything he does in French. Once again, last night he was very open, self-aware of this. He talked about how he frequently makes gaffes. His team, though, continues to spin that he is able to clearly communicate his positions when he does speak French, notwithstanding the fact that it was evident last night that he is thinking through each and every word of his answers. Nevertheless, points for not shying away from the tough questions. He took great pains to try to explain the nuances of his positions on things like Quebec's secularism and language laws, eventually admitting it's tough to sort of balance things out. It gets very technical when you're talking about rights, and probably it's a job for judges. He was also pushed about the possibility of a pipeline going through Quebec. There he echoed Quebec's premier, saying it requires social acceptability, but also pointed out at a time when everyone's thinking more about sovereignty issues, Quebecers consume fossil fuels from the U.S. Look, a lot hinges on how Quebec seats may swing in this vote, but it was unclear that there was anything in either of these conversations to really kind of change the trajectory of this campaign.
So both leaders starting the day and making announcements in Montreal this morning. In fact, we'll hear from Pierre Poilievre at some point this morning. What do we expect to learn from them today, Janice?
Yeah, both could be quite interesting. Poilievre has already released a distinct platform for Quebec voters, but we'll see if he tries to build on any specifics of that at his availability. Carney, though, is right in the heart of the aerospace industry for his announcement in Dorval. And remember, he's coming off a meeting of his Canada-U.S. Cabinet Committee on Friday and a conversation with NATO's Secretary General on Saturday. So we're going to watch to see if he's prepared today to announce any big moves, perhaps on Canada's fighter jet procurement or just for military spending generally, something that would give his campaign fresh fodder heading into those debates later on this week.
Janice, thank you very much.